Welcome to a brand new series for the Pull List Examiner. This is going to be my month in review. I'm going to take a look back at the month of November, and I'm going to share with you my reviews and news over all the comics that I had on my pull list, some of the changes I've made, but really I'm going to focus on the DC, Marvel, and indie comics that I think you probably shouldn't miss out, and I'll have some recommendations, maybe some recommendations for things to drop off the pull list too. But let's take a look at each category. Let's start with DC Comics. Starting off with DC Comics, I'm going to take a look at some of the titles that I really would recommend picking up. First, we're going to start with Detective Comics. Ram V as went off on this epic tale and epic journey that I think I'm only now realizing how epic it is. He has taken over Detective Comics, and we've had various artists that have joined him on the title. I think we're now even at weekly releases of Detective Comics, coming out once a week right now. He has done an amazing job of telling this tale of Gotham, and tying it back to old Batman history. And really, we've got this new art style on this current series that I'm loving with Jason Sean Alexander doing the art. He is got a style that I would say is comparable to like a Mark Takara from the 90s mixed with a little Jay Lee and some Sam Keith thrown in there. It's this dark, gritty artwork, and they have just been doing a great job on the series. Can't say enough about Detective Comics. Definitely something that if you're a Batman fan, you should be checking out. And now, as we're talking about Batman, I'll jump into the Gotham War. I am kind of glad that that arc has wrapped. I know a lot of times we've got these, and I'll talk about that with Star Wars too. We've got these arcs where they tie series together, and I think it's a sales pitch. I ended up buying things like Catwoman this last few months as we were tying in to the Gotham War arc. I thought the ending was a little lackluster, but it was still a good read, and Chip Zdarsky is back to writing his own story arc and plot back on the main Batman title, and I'm glad to see that with the main Batman title. And then I'll also mention the Green Lantern series. I think there's a total of now 3 Green Lantern series. We didn't have any, I think, this time last year because the series had wrapped up, but now we've got 3 series, one focusing on Hal Jordan, one focusing on John Stewart, and one focusing on Alan Scott. I primarily am sticking to the main Green Lantern series. I think they're doing a pretty good job. I've really enjoyed it so far. I've also read a little bit of the John Stewart series. I think they're up to issue 3 that came out this past month. I think it's okay. Hopefully it'll hold my interest and I'll stick with it, but we'll see how that progresses. And then the last thing I'll mention is Tom King is one of DC's prolific writers right now, doing I don't even know how many series he has that he's writing, but I know recently Wonder Woman came out and there was a big story arc there that's kind of a different take on Wonder Woman as the whole world turns against her. I think it's okay. If I had to pick one series though where I think Tom King is doing a great job, that's going to be his current writing that he's doing with the Penguin series, which is a tie-in to the Batman world, and I really think he's doing a good job. It actually goes back to some of the other titles that he released, I think, last year. But really, Tom King did that entire Batman run for a long time. And I don't know if this is a direct tie back to that or if it's more of a tie into the current things that are going on in the Batman world. But I give him credit because that has really been a good series so far. I think this past month we got up to issue 3 or 4. But if you're not reading the Penguin, I can recommend that. And that's it for DC Comics. So let's jump over to Marvel. So over at Marvel Comics, there is one title in particular that is jumping out and has been by far my favorite title in this past month of November. We got another good issue with Incredible Hulk as they delve into this horror genre. We got to see the Ghost Rider show up this past month. They are doing a great job, and I would probably say, at least in my opinion, Incredible Hulk is the best title coming out from Marvel today. Another title from Marvel I'm really enjoying, if you've been watching my series here, is the Predator versus Wolverine series. Benjamin Percy, who is very familiar with the X-Men, he is writing this series and doing a great job. I really have enjoyed I think we were on issue 3 this month, so I've really been enjoying that story, that plot. Great art to go along with it. So if you're not reading Predator versus Wolverine, I would check that one out too. And then the other thing I'll mention from Marvel Comics is I did finally drop here. So here's one of the drops for this month. I dropped Daredevil from my pull list. I really am sad that we lost the Chip Zdarsky run, even though I will say he was running out of steam there at the end as they were doing some pretty interesting things with the Daredevil world, and the new writer and art was decent, but it just wasn't holding my attention after I think issue 2 or 3, so it is no longer on the pull list. Let's go to the next. Now we're on to indie comics, and to be honest, with Image Comics being probably the bulk of this, sometimes I wonder if Image is even considered an indie comics. It could be part of the big 3 along with DC and Marvel, but I'm going to start off with a couple titles that are coming from Image with Jeff Lemire. I've mentioned Phantom Road before, and this past month we got back into a new arc in that story. It reminds me a lot of the X-Files. Really like the sci-fi story plot that we're getting in that story. So if you're a fan of that kind of detective meets supernatural, check out Phantom Road. And then additionally, Jeff Lemire has given us the title Fish Flies, which is coming out in a premium style format for his series. I really have liked, I think we got issue 3 this past month, and I really liked what he's doing with that title. It is his art, his story, and kind of reminds me of Sweet Tooth if you read any of that, and I think it is another interesting supernatural take, a little bit of detective work going on there as well, but another good story to check into if you are a Jeff Lemire fan. Next, over at AWA Comics, there's 2 titles that came out this month that I wanted to mention. First is The Madness, which is kind of a horror superhero mashup. Very interesting. And then also Garth Ennis is writing a title called The Ribbon Queen. We got another issue of that this month. That has been a really good story if you're into that kind of detective supernatural mashup. Kind of similar to what I mentioned with Jeff Lemire's Phantom Road, but a whole different take here. This one's a little more gory, and I thought that Garth Ennis is doing a great job with this series and put that on my recommended list. And then if you're an Army of Darkness fan over at Dynamite, you will have noticed in my previous shows that I've mentioned they are essentially giving us an entire sequel to the Army of Darkness. So go check out Army of Darkness Forever, which is coming out from Dynamite Comics. One other title coming at us from Image Comics was Geiger Ground Zero, and if you are not familiar with the Geigerverse, you've got Jeff Johns doing artwork with Gary Frank, and it looks like, and this is probably what I'm even more excited about, is they've recruited other high-profile comic creators to come in and start creating other titles underneath their subdivision of Image Comics. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we get from this Geigerverse, and thought that this title that we got, which is essentially a backstory for Geiger, was done very well. Looking forward to the second issue. I think it's a 2-part series, so we'll hopefully get that second issue soon and wrap up, and then jump into some more of the Geigerverse. And lastly, one title I have to mention is Void Rivals from Robert Kirkman. This is also from Image Comics, and it's part of his new Hasbro universe. He's tied it in with things like Transformers, and if you are a sci-fi fan, this is set in outer space with 2 warring alien factions that are finding some common ground unknowingly. So there's some political type drama that's involved. There's also action. I think it's a really good series and looking forward to it continuing. And the last segment today on the November month in review is going to be Star Wars. Even though it's Marvel Comics, I thought it would be good to kind of subdivide Star Wars into its own world, because really it is its own world even at Marvel. And I will also be able to throw in the fact that it's not just Marvel. There's also some of the series being written by Dark Horse Comics as well. So with that being said, we did get a brand new series this month from Star Wars. We are now into Phase 3 of the High Republic. So if you're a Star Wars fan, I would definitely say at least check out the first couple issues that we're getting here. There's I think it's called Shadows of the Starlight mini-series, and then there's the main title for the High Republic, and then I think we're going to be getting a Adventures, which is kind of the kids series from Dark Horse next month in Phase 3. But with that being said, there's a lot of spec on these books because you're getting new characters all the time. So if you're a collector, it's also a good time to pick up these titles. But if you're a Star Wars fan, you get a whole new world. You still get some references to people who may still be around. For example, Yoda shows up in some of these High Republic titles because he's so old, but you get all new characters, new plots, new ideas. So I really have been liking the High Republic series. And then I will say I have not been super happy with the Dark Droids plot. I really do feel like we kind of have a sales pitch going on in the Star Wars world, which is buy all of our titles so you get all of the story of Dark Droids. I did not buy into that this time. I have been buying some special covers, but really I have only stuck to the Darth Vader series and the main Star Wars series as this Dark Droids has come out. I will mention I did pick up some of the Dark Droid itself series where it's just Dark Droids standalone series, and you know, overall it's been interesting to read. You do still have some of the great writers writing these stories. Greg Pak on Darth Vader, Charles Soule is writing some of these titles as well. So with that being said, I mean, it's a good, well-written series, but it's very hard and difficult to read so many different titles and keep them all connected, and I'm kind of getting tired of the events because it's just been one Star Wars event after another for the last few years. We had Crimson Dawn, Crimson Reign, we had the Battle of the Bounty Hunters, before that War of the Bounty Hunters. So I kind of see the idea that they want to tie things together, but at the same time, I think I want some more standalone titles. But overall, if you're a Star Wars fan, there's just so much content out there. You can go grab stuff, but I'm sticking mostly with Star Wars and Darth Vader as the two titles I buy consistently, and we did get those titles this past month along with some other Dark Droid titles. And then I'll also finish Star Wars by saying they continue to give us these recreation comics from the TV series, and this month we got both Obi-Wan and Mandalorian. I think they're on season 3 of Mandalorian, and there was only one season of Obi-Wan on the TV show, so we're just getting that single season. And I think what they do is every episode of the TV show they recreate it in comic book form. It's not new story or new plot, so you have to be a pretty solid Star Wars fan to go out and buy these. But I will say some of them are kind of fun to reread, and some of the covers they give us on these special editions or special covers, whether it's a retailer incentive cover or just a variant, it has been very cool. You get some pretty nice covers. But that's it for Star Wars. Well, I just want to thank you for watching my November month in review for the Pull List Examiner. Remember, you can find all my episodes on my channel. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Pull List Examiner. Thank you for watching.